Today we are gathered here to discuss all the books I read in the month of September. I've been to a lot of weddings lately, if you can't tell, but we're here to talk about all the books I read in September, which was not very many books at all. Maybe the least amount of books I've read in a month all year, but the quality, very good. Good high average rating this month. I had several 5 stars. I had several 4 stars. It was an enjoyable time with the books that I was picking up. So I'm excited to tell you about them. But as always, we're gonna go in order from my least favorite to my most favorite. So we're gonna start with the duds first, and then we'll very quickly move on to the good stuff. The first book I have to tell you about was my singular 2-star rating of the month, which also happened to be a book that I talked extensively about on the internet, and that is How to Survive a Horror Story by Mallory Arnold. This was the Book Troop book club pick for the month of September, which is a book club hosted by Gabby Reads here on YouTube. Myself and Allie joined Gabby to chat about this book, and we all didn't love it. So if you're not convinced by my opinion, and you need more convincing, you can go check out that live show. Or if you did read this book and you just want to hear more about it, you can check that out. Or if you haven't read this book and even knowing we all didn't like it, you're still curious to hear about it, but you don't want the spoilers, you can still watch it and listen to the non-spoilery section. So I'll have that video linked down below if you missed that discussion and want to go check it out. This book is a horror thriller book, kind of combines genres, also has some mystery elements to it. Feels like it's inspired by Clue in some ways. And this is an inheritance story. In the very beginning, this reclusive, famous author, Mortimer Queen, dies, and several other authors receive letters inviting them to his home for a reading of the will. So they all gather to this home. They're all published authors, except one of them is not yet published. And they think that for some reason they're being left some of his estate. But what they find out is that they're actually there to play a sort of game. There's going to be riddles. They have to move through the different rooms of the house. And if they're not able to successfully play the game, to successfully answer the riddles, there will be severe consequences. I enjoyed the setup of the story. It sounds like something I'm bound to love. It has a lot of the elements that I typically enjoy. But the main reason that I didn't like it so much is because it was kind of exactly what it set up. Once the story gets going, once you get into the flow, you realize how things are set up, how they're going to go, and then it feels very repetitive going through that whole process to get to the end of the book. I would have liked to see the story twist itself on its head in some way, for the story to evolve, for there to be some kind of bigger surprise. I really didn't like the ending twist. It's one of my least favorite things that happens in thriller books. However, this is this author's debut novel, and I think for a debut, you can tell this author was really excited by these concepts. I can tell this author likes a lot of the same things that I like too, and I think this was a successful project for taking a stab at those things. I just personally read a lot of these types of stories that have these different elements, and so I wanted to do something different. I think this was just a good traditional pass at this type of story. So if you're newer to these types of stories, or if you don't mind that it's repetitive and formulaic and a bit predictable, then maybe you'll have a better time with it than I did. The next book I have to talk about was my 2.5-star rating for the month, which was Hazelthorn by C.G. Drews. I did do a video this month where I gave my early reviews for 2 books that I read ARC copies of. Hazelthorn was one of those, so I'll have that video linked if you want to check it out and hear full thoughts, my full review. I'll give a quick recap of it here. This was my first encounter with this author, although I know they are a popular author. Many people enjoyed particularly their book, Don't Let the Woods In, I think it's called. So I was interested in checking this author out. Unfortunately, I think this was just not the type of story for me. It is a young adult, gothic, lush, atmospheric, purple prosy, coming of age, body horror type of story. And that's something I probably would have really liked 3 or 4 years ago, but I'm just not reading a ton of anymore. And the whole thing read a little bit over the top, a little melodramatic to me. It just wasn't something that I was actually getting really invested in. The story follows this boy named Evander who's living at this big house with this garden estate called Hazelthorn. And since the death of his parents, he's been raised by this caretaker, but the caretaker dies, and now Evander is inheriting the estate. So another kind of inheritance story that I read this month. The caretaker did have a grandson named Laurie, and Evander has a tumultuous past with Laurie because all he remembers of his relationship with Laurie is that Laurie tried to kill him once, And so now Laurie's coming back, the whole family's coming back, everyone's kind of mad Evander's inheriting this. And during all of this chaos, Evander's starting to question a lot of things about his own life and his connection with this guy, and why is he bequeathing him his estate, and why did Laurie try to kill him, and is he in danger again, and uncovering all these secrets along the way. I thought it was okay. Once I really got into the story, I was kind of just waiting for it to end once I realized it wasn't necessarily my thing. Apparently this is quite similar to Don't Let the Woods In tonally, so if you did really enjoy that, there's a good chance you're gonna like this one as well. It just personally wasn't my favorite thing, so that's why I gave it a rating right in the middle with a 2.5. Now we're making a big jump into my 4 stars. I didn't have any 3-star ratings. We're moving to stuff I really enjoyed. And the next book is The Autumn Springs Retirement Home Massacre by Philip Fracassi. And this book I also reviewed in that video where I talked about Hazelthorn. So again, I've got a video where you can hear my full thoughts and my full review of this book, but I'll give a quick recap here as well. This is now the 3rd novel that I've read from Philip Fracassi, and I feel like he's quickly becoming an author that I definitely want to keep an eye out for more of his stuff. I really like his writing style, even though he writes really different types of books. There's something about the way he brings the story onto the page that even in different kind of subgenres with different types of stories tonally, I'm still really interested in just seeing what he does with his stories. I think he's a good storyteller. In this one, you're following this older woman named Rose, and it is set at a retirement home community. And it begins with some people dying, and that is not an unusual thing at this retirement home community. It's a lot of people who are close to the end of their lives. But Rose is suspicious of the circumstances in which people are dying, and people start dying more rapidly. And so she decides that she wants to get involved, grabs a couple friends, and tries to solve who is killing people, why are they doing it, and can they put a stop to it before the person comes after her. I absolutely loved Rose's character. I feel like I just got pulled into the story so quickly. It does have more of a cozy tone to it. It definitely reminded me of the Thursday Murder Club series, which also follows a cast of older adults who are solving mysteries together, but this one definitely goes in a darker direction. There is some dark, gruesome moments. It is in its nature a slasher, so it definitely goes darker, but the way the characters come together, this concept of like finding community, thinking about things at the end of your life, and just like connecting with other people. It has a lot of that in it, which is what reminded me of the Thursday Murder Club. But I really like this quite a bit. I didn't love the ending of it. I would have liked to see it go in a different direction, but I liked it for what it was. And at the end of the book, he mentioned that he might do more with these characters in the future, which I think would be interesting to see as well. My other 4-star read of the month was Vera Wong's Guide to Snooping on a Dead Man by Jessie Q. Sutanto. This is the follow-up to Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers, which is a book I loved when I read it. I gave this one a 5-star, and the sequel I gave a 4, so I'm definitely still really enjoying this series. The first book in the series is following this older woman, Vera Wong, and she runs a tea shop, and one day this man ends up dead in her tea shop, and she decides that she wants to investigate it for herself, and she gathers all her suspects together. And it is just so silly. It has a cozy found family feel to it. And I feel like this is one of the first cozy mysteries that I really loved that got me to start picking up more cozy mysteries. The second book in the series definitely still has a lot of the same feelings as the first book. You're following Vera Wong as she takes on another case and tries to solve another mystery and is getting way too involved in things that she should not be getting involved in. And she is the same charming character that she was from the first book. She is so funny. The connection she makes with people is great. It has that found family feeling to it as well. A lot of like outcasts and misfits coming together. And I had a really good time with it. I listened to it on audio, and I think that was a really good way to go with it as well. And I hope the series continues because I'm really having a good time with the series. I will say the reason it was a 4-star, not a 5-star for me, I was hoping to see more of an arc building, I guess, in the broader story and the broader connections between these characters from the first book. It kind of throws you into just new mystery, new people. There are some people from the first book that you see again, but they don't play a very significant part in the story besides Vera, of course, as the title character. And I was just anticipating seeing a little bit more of them, picking up on that a little bit, but really we go follow this completely different story. And also it goes a little darker than I expected it to go. The mystery that's explored in this one is on some more serious topics that get a little dark, but it still manages to keep, you know, the cozy mystery feel. It's not like a gruesome story. It's just darker topics that are explored with the type of crime that Vera finds herself getting involved in. So I hope if the series does continue and if we do get a third book that we start to see a bit of a broader arc in the overall series. I think that'd be nice. And lastly, I have 2 5-star reads that I haven't talked about at all on the channel yet this month, so I'm excited to talk about them here and share some of my new favorites with you. First up is the Marigold Cottages Murder Collective by Jo Nichols. This is a cozy mystery that I hope is setting up a series because I would love to read another book following these characters. And this was an arc that I had sent to me from the publisher. It came out in August. I was just a little bit late to getting around to it, but it is so good. If you love cozy mysteries, I would definitely recommend picking it up. If you can't tell, I love cozy mysteries that follow outcast misfits, the found family, community feeling of them coming together. And this has all of those things in it. You are following this community who lives in these cottages that are called the Marigold Cottages, and they're all, you know, kind of arranged around one another. The landlady is named Mrs. B, and she really knows all of her tenants very well. She gets very involved in their lives. And then a murder comes and shakes up their community. Right before the murder, this guy moved into the community who was a violent ex-con, and he very quickly gets arrested for the crime. But Mrs. B believes that he did not do it, and she wants to help clear his name, and she gets the whole community involved in this effort. And she even goes to the extent to confess to the crime herself to get that guy out of jail. And so then the whole community has to come together because they all really adore her to try to get her out of jail, and they try to figure out who actually committed the murder to save her, and also to save themselves and their community, to make sure they're still safe and that no one's gonna go around killing people. I love this concept. I love these characters. There are very dynamic, different types of characters in this story. You have Sophie, an anxious young playwright with a dark past, Hamilton, an agoraphobe who likes to overshare, Ocean, a queer sculptor raising 2 kids alone, the perfectionist Lily Ann, and Nicholas, a finance bro who's hiding secrets. You also get all of their perspectives in the story, and it's told in very quick, short chapters that alternate POVs. I loved it. I loved everything about this book. I think it was so excellent. It was so charming. It just made me want to move to a little community where I know all my neighbors, and then maybe a murder happens and we solve it together, and we just all have these eternal bonds that bring us together. It was lovely, and I haven't seen this book getting a lot of attention, so definitely recommend picking it up if you're someone who likes cozy mysteries like me. I think you're gonna have a really good time with it. My other 5-star was a romance book, and that was We Met Like This by Casey West. This was also an arc that came out in September. Got to this one on time though, read it in September as well. And Casey West is an author that I actually used to read a lot of when I was a young adult myself, and she was writing young adult romances. And I remember really enjoying her books back then. I remember giving her several 4 and 5 stars, but that was a long time ago. They were young adult books, and I was a teenager / young adult when I was reading them. I guess more of a teenager. And I just never know with books like that, books you loved in your past when you were much younger, if they would hold up for you today, if that's something you'd still be interested in or not. And so I typically just like don't revisit books I loved. I like to leave those happy memories in the past. And as my reading evolves, as I evolve, I just, find new things to read. But Casey West, this is her adult debut novel. So I was really curious to see if she's writing her first adult romance, is that going to catch up to me where I am in life and I'll like it as much as I liked her books when I was much younger and she was writing to a younger audience? And the answer was yes. So that was fantastic. I knew within like 2 or 3 chapters of this book that I was going to love it. It was almost like reconnecting with an old friend. The way the writing style just completely pulled me in, and I was so immediately immersed in these characters' stories. Your main character in this book is named Margot, and she's a literary agent who's living over on the West Coast. And a lot of the publishing world happens on the East Coast in New York. So that was an interesting take. I've never read a publishing story where someone's not, in the fast-paced world of New York. She's actually out on the West Coast. And Margot is a lover of romance stories. She wants to publish romances. She loves the idea of meet cutes, and so she is not about the idea of being on the dating apps, but she's single, and so that's where she spends a good amount of her time. And she ends up reconnecting with this guy Oliver, who she actually ran into several years before. They went on one date many years ago and the date was pretty terrible, but they had really great chemistry. They ended up making out at the end of it. She kind of still thinks about that moment. And through the years, they passingly see each other on the dating app. And she reconnects with them at the beginning of this, and it's when she's going through quite a tumultuous period in her life and especially in her career. And now it seems like they're kind of having some sparks again. The book mostly is following Margot going through her own identity and career journey, and there's this romance that's happening at the same time as she's reconsidering Oliver and wondering if she should give him a second chance. And the chemistry these two characters have was so good. I love a romance book that can remind you of that silly, giggling, kicking your feet feeling of falling in love, and I feel like this book did it so well. I absolutely love their banter. I loved the connection that they have with one another. He is such a great love interest. He was such a perfect pairing for her. I do feel like if I had to complain about anything, I would say that I wish we got to know him a little bit more, because he very much reads as like man written by a woman. You know, like he's this perfect guy for Margot, and this is a very like escapist romance book. If you just want to read a book where a guy's like really falling for a girl and he's like perfect for her and he helps make her life easier in every way, this is definitely the one for you. I do like to have, you know, a little bit more of like, I want him to feel like a fully realized real person. There's some stuff mentioned about his family. You don't really get to see a lot of that. He's mostly just like the supporting character for Margot's life, but this is Margot's story. So that's why it's a very, you know, female gaze centric type of book, which is good. And I really liked it. I mean, I gave it a 5-star. But if I had to critique anything, that's what I would critique of it. But yeah, I loved their romance. I loved Margot's journey through the story. I loved her as a character. She's definitely super flawed, and she's the type of person who would just drive you absolutely crazy in real life, but also you just couldn't help but want to be their friend because you're so charmed by them. And I thought that made for a really interesting main character. She definitely felt very real. She's making mistakes, making some very questionable choices, living a life that just would never be the life I lived, but something about it, you know, watching her stumble through it anyway and figuring it all out and finding romance along the way was just so wonderful. I love this so much. And I saw Casey West's next adult romance has already been announced. I think it's called Stranger Things Have Happened, and I will definitely be picking that one up. I'm so excited to read more adult romances from her. I think this was so excellent. So that is it for all the books I read in the month of September. Let me know down below if you've read any of these books and what you thought about them, or let me know if I convinced you to pick any of them up. But that is it for me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on my next video. Bye.